So the other day, I was talking to a fellow entrepreneur who was just about to make their hire for their first employee. And they asked me, Grant, I am really looking forward to having this new employee, but I'm scared because in the past, I've had a lot of really bad bosses, and I don't want to be that person. And so what am I supposed to do? So they've been looking at online courses and they've been reading some things, but nothing really sticks for them. A little bit about communication, a little bit about, setting up their goals for the future, but not about how to actually make action plans for the workplace to set up their workers for success. So the first thing I want to say is that if you're in this position and you're asking yourself, how can I be a good manager? You're already ahead of the game. It's the managers that are concerned about whether they're a good manager or not, that are going to make good managers because they're actually going to do the research for it, right? The ones who think they're good managers and they don't need to do any research, those are the ones that, they're not going to improve and they're not going to take feedback. And those are the bad managers. So you're already on your way, but let me help you with a bunch of points, physical, actual steps that you can take to help ensure the success of your new employees and how to be a good manager. So first of all, you want to know the direction and the goals of your company. All right, so when the employee comes in and you say, this is what we want our company to do, and this is where it's going to be going, and this is your role in this direction. So that when you ask them again, or maybe they're asking themselves, like, what is my company doing? They know. They have the direction and goals of your company. Now, you want to have a framework for that role. What are they going to be doing, right? And you can break it down easily into daily. What are they going to be doing every day? Weekly, something at the end of the week that they might need to brush up on, quarterly, and then yearly. Also know when you want to do your performance reviews, right? So now that you know what they're going to be doing, you want to have the expectations of what you want out of that role, right? So you want examples of good and bad work so that when they do bad work, you say, hey, we showed you this at the very beginning. Why are you doing this now? Or when you give them examples of good work, they say, oh, okay, now I know exactly what is expected of me. Great. You want to be able to tell them what do they have to do to be promoted and what will get them fired. Right, so you might have very particular things that you care about that you say, if you come in late, that's really going to hurt it's really going to hurt your chances of staying with us. Everyone has their own things that they need to keep to be happy at the workplace, and setting the expectation is fine as long as everybody knows, right? And also give them something to say, you can be promoted if you do such and such and such a thing. And with all of these, with the examples and promoting and firing, use metrics as much as possible. So concrete numbers, right? Numbers of like sales calls, or number of things that you're doing, number of clients that you're talking to, so that, because numbers are very easy to track, whereas the qualitative results, of course you're going to have some for your promotion and firing, but qualitative are harder to track and harder to explain during meetings and performance reviews. And obviously, you're going to want to have very robust training. So I have a previous video on how to shadow properly if you have no documentation whatsoever, but you will eventually want to get into documentation to go through all the steps that the employee will need to take to get their job done. Having training manuals will help them. So day one, boom, set that on their desk. They know what to do, they know the expectations, and they know what they're going to be doing into the future. This makes them feel so supported in that the company knows exactly what they want me to do, and that I know what my boundaries are, how to succeed, and what to avoid. But there's always going to be problems in the workplace. They're always going to be doing something that you don't want them to be doing. And so how do we deal with this? We want to communicate before disciplining, okay? Even though the expectations are set here and they're trying to follow them, you want to ask, why'd you do that? Right? I set up these expectations for you, and what's happening to you. Maybe they're having a really bad day. Maybe something's happening at home. Maybe they don't have the tools. If it's a remote worker, maybe they don't have the tools that they need to get the job done. There may be tons of reasons for it. So don't just discipline them without knowing what the background is, right? And when you're listening to them, explaining about what's going on, reflect. So reflecting is, they say, oh, well, I don't have a chair to sit in, so I'm literally working on the floor of my house. And so, and that's really hard for me. And you can say, okay, so what I've heard is that you don't have a chair, and that's making it really hard for you. And it may seem redundant, but reflecting in very emotional situations helps you make sure that you understand where the person is coming from. Especially if they have like a long-winded answer, you may want to condense everything and make sure that you understand where they're coming from. And they can say yes, or no, that's not actually what I mean this. So then you can ask them, how would you solve this? What's the solution for this that you can see, right? And they may come up with a bunch of things, or they may say, I really don't know, right? And that's where you can brainstorm your alternatives. If if they say, I want such and such a raise, or all this kind of stuff, and you say, okay, well, I hear, so it sounds like what you want is a raise and all this stuff. Is that right? Okay, so we can't give you that much, but maybe we can look into, if your performance is going well, what about this, right? So what else can we do about this? So brainstorm ways that they can be happy with a solution to it. That's negotiating, right? And if you can't help them at all, if they're like, I'm sorry, we just can't do that solution, tell them why, right? Be transparent. We don't have as much funding next time. We don't have as much funding as we want, or we can't ship these things to you, or this person that you're frustrated with is really important to the company, and we need to keep them on. Right, so be transparent about why, but also try and help them as much as possible through that situation, and tell them that you understand their position. I understand this is very frustrating for you. So at least they know that you know. And they know the reason why you can't help them. So just that alone can help them get through the situation. So when you do come up with like a solution, maybe it's like, I'm having trouble getting my work done because I don't know what to do. And so you say, okay, well, let me help you halfway through, or something like that. So as you're working, follow up and say, hey, is this thing that we talked about, is that working for you? Even if you haven't gotten a project completed yet, just say, hey, as we're working, is this something that's good for you? And they might say, actually, yeah, this is actually really helpful, thank you. Or, I'm finding myself, I'm still not really motivated. Can we think of something else, right? So you want to really nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. So to expound on that, even if you're not having any kind of problems, they might not feel safe talking with you about it. Maybe that's why they're not bringing it up. So having 360 performance reviews is wonderful if you want to be a good manager. And 360 performance reviews means you review them, and then they also review you. This can be a really tricky situation. It can be humbling, especially being in a position of power and having somebody give you a review. So don't just do this if you aren't okay with it. It's okay to not have 360 performance reviews. There's not many companies out there that actually do that. If you're going to have a 360 performance review, you gotta make sure that you're gonna follow through on any kind of problems that they have and solutions, right? So following through means negotiating, talking with them, or being transparent about why you can't change, okay? And finally, give them praise, right? I hear this all the time. I just want my manager to tell me good job for what I did. And it's true that some people don't need that. Some people don't need to hear good job every single time they finish a project, but some people really like it. And so it's really up to them, right? And you can ask them right when they come in, are you someone who likes a lot of praise, or are you someone that just can get the job done and just move on? So a combination of preparation for the incoming employee, to give them a framework and expectations, and then communicating clearly when there are issues is the basis of being a good manager. And if you can start with all of this, I'm positive your employees will be very happy with where they are. If you're having any troubles with it, especially in the training and setting up the framework or moving through the communication with your current employees, that's what memory consulting can help with.